Sustainable development in indigenous communities has been an important topic for many years now. As the world becomes increasingly aware of the need to protect the environment and its resources. Sustainable development is a term used to describe the process of achieving economic and social development without compromising the environment or the future generations. Indigenous communities are particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change. And it is essential that sustainable development initiatives are taken into consideration when designing and implementing policies and practices. The United Nations defines sustainable development as a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. It is important to recognize that sustainable development does not mean avoiding changes or progress. Instead, it is about balancing economic growth with environmental protection. Sustainable development is an important concept for indigenous communities because it allows them to preserve their traditional ways of life while also participating in the modern economy. In order to promote sustainable development in indigenous communities, it is important to consider the unique cultural and social needs of these populations. Indigenous communities often rely heavily on the natural environment, which makes them particularly vulnerable to environmental degradation. This can include overharvesting of resources, pollution, and habitat destruction. It is essential that sustainable practices be implemented to protect these resources and ensure that they remain available for future generations. One way to promote sustainable development in indigenous communities is through the use of traditional knowledge and practices. Indigenous peoples have a wealth of knowledge about the environment and how to best protect it. This includes traditional agricultural practices, such as crop rotation and soil conservation, which can help to increase productivity and reduce environmental degradation. Additionally, traditional knowledge can be used to develop more sustainable solutions to energy issues, such as the use of renewable sources of energy and energy efficiency. Another way to promote sustainable development in indigenous communities is by providing resources and support for community-driven initiatives. These initiatives can include projects that focus on sustainable resource management, such as waste reduction and recycling. They can also include projects that focus on economic development, such as the development of small businesses and cooperatives. It is important to ensure that these initiatives are driven by the needs of the community and that they are tailored to the local context. Finally, it is important to recognize that sustainable development in indigenous communities is a collective effort and requires the involvement of all stakeholders. This includes local governments, businesses, and non-profit organizations. All stakeholders must work together to ensure that sustainable development initiatives are implemented in a way that is beneficial to both the community and the environment. Sustainable development in indigenous communities is an essential component of global sustainability. It is important to recognize that indigenous populations are particularly vulnerable to the effects of climate change and other environmental issues, and it is essential that their voices are heard in the development of sustainable solutions. By promoting sustainable practices and supporting community-driven initiatives, we can help to ensure that these communities can continue to thrive in the face of environmental change.